Let's do research in psychology. Pencil case, suitcase, criminal case. But this is not your ordinary case. Case that has been used in many ways. Let's figure it out and begin to trace what you're gonna do. Let's study. Let's do research in psychology. Methodologies. Let's choose wisely. Fair use methods that are used widely. Methods which complete the recipe. When there is a need to obtain an in-depth study to explain a phenomenon of interest in its natural real-life context. What you gonna choose? It's case study. Let's do research in psychology. Methodologies. Let's choose wisely. Fair use methods that are used widely. Methods which complete the recipe. An in-depth analysis, case study, an in-depth investigation, interviews and observation of a person, group, or phenomenon. Let's do research in psychology. Methodologies. Let's choose wisely. Fair use methods that are used widely. Methods which complete the recipe.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Group Psych Case, and this is a breakdown of the history of case study. The history of case study is a long and complicated matter, but only a brief overview will be given here.
The development of case study as a research design both encompasses and illustrates the issues and critics which it has had to deal with throughout its tough history.
A sociologist named Ernest W. Burgess in 1927 offered an account of the early application of case study in American sociology. He notes that the case study method was first introduced into social sciences as a handmaiden to statistics, with the latter long regarded, as it still is in many quarters today, as the most desirable way of undertaking research. In other words, case study was largely seen as a means for fleshing out and providing detailed illustration or exemplification to complement quantitative analysis rather than as an alternative to them.
Burgess considered that the actual introduction of the case study as a method of sociological field research was made by Thomas and Zaniecki in The Polish Peasant in Europe and America, which was published in 1918. This places case study, at least in its sociological context, as being about a century old. Unsurprisingly, then, Burgess, writing when case study was less than a decade old, concludes that it is apparent that case study as a method in sociology is still in its infancy.
Others, however, date the origin of the case study research as rather earlier, with Scholes and DJ referencing the works of the famous sociologist Lepley in 1855, adding more than a half century in Burgess's reckoning.
Another sociologist, Paul B. Forman, sought to develop a theory of case studies. He argued that case studies use three sources of data, which are personal documents, participant observation, and third-person reports, a rather partial listing to the modern eye, and that they may be used in 5 ways in sociological research. They may serve purposes of first, illustration, second, concept and hypothesis development, third, hypothesis testing, fourth, prediction or post-diction, and fifth, methodological testing or refinement. He goes on to consider the adequacy of case records and their interpretation, how this may be judged, and the turning issue of generalization.
In the 1950s, however, case study became less popular for a period in social sciences. A woman named Jennifer Platt in 1992 notes in her analysis of the history of case study in American methodological thought, the term case study has played a variety of roles, changing over time in American methodological discussion. Its use has been imprecise, carrying ideological connotations rather than analytical denotations.
She associates the post-war decline in the popularity of case study with a variety of other factors as well, including continuing concern with the issues of generalization and prediction, problems with the articulation of case study analysis, and increased competition from the development of more sophisticated quantitative techniques and associated databases.
Case study research began to make a comeback in the late 1960s and 1970s as a qualitative technique assumed greater importance and popularity, particularly outside of North America.
In summary, we see that case study as a method of research had a tough history. It had many critics along its growth, but nonetheless, its scale and accessibility as a research design began to be accepted and appreciated on the latter part of its history. Hope you enjoyed learning and watching. If you want more, consider subscribing and following our social media accounts. This is Case Talk. Thank you for watching.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and for today's video, we will be having a Q&A portion. If you could still remember, guys, I've asked you to send me all your questions and all the things that you want to talk about in this vlog. Thank you so much for sending your questions, and based on what I've seen, majority of you wanted me to discuss with you the defining features of a case study. Well, it's a very interesting topic because it will allow us to know how a case study differs from other research designs because of its features and characteristics. Okay, before we start, I would gladly like to introduce to you my co-vloggers who will be joining us today in this vlog. Rojin, Ali, Jay, Glenn. Hello guys! Thank you for joining me in this episode. Okay, for the first question, in doing a case study research, where will it begin? Okay, so one of the defining features of a case study is the identification of a specific case. So basically, the research or the case study research begins with the identification of a specific case that will be described and analyzed. We should identify first if it is a study for an individual, for a community, or a decision process or an event. So it can be a single case or multiple cases so that they can be compared. For the next question, what is the key to the case identification? Okay, as simple as it is bounded, which means that it needs to have certain parameters such as the place where the case is located, the time frame in which the case is being studied. Also, the people involved can serve as a parameter. Okay, for the rest of your questions, my guests for today will be the ones who will be answering your question. For the third question, it will be for Rogin. Okay, it's stated here that what is the difference between intrinsic case and instrumental case?
First of all, the intent of conducting case study is one of the defining features of a case study. The intent of the case study can be to illustrate a unique case, a case that has unusual interest in and of itself, and needs to be described and detailed. That is called the intrinsic case, whereas the instrumental case is to understand a specific issue, problem, or concern, for example, teenage pregnancy, and a case or cases selected to best understand the problem.
Oh, okay, that's right. Thank you, Rogin. Okay, for the next question, it's for Ali. What is a hallmark of a good qualitative case study?
Presenting an in-depth understanding of the case is a hallmark of a good qualitative case study. One source of data is not enough to develop an in-depth understanding. So in order to accomplish this, many forms of qualitative data must be collected and integrated. From interviews to observations to documents and to audiovisual materials.
Yes, that is on point. Thank you, Ali. Okay, for the next question, it's for Jay. How to approach the data analysis in a case study?
So, okay, the approach for the data analysis can be multiple units depending on the case. For example, the school and the school district. The entire case, like the school district, is obviously a type of multiple cases, and multiple cases are being analyzed and compared, while a single case is being analyzed only.
Alright, so the approaches may differ. Okay, thank you, Jay. So for our next question, it is Glenn's turn. What is the key to generating the description of the case?
It involves identifying case themes. These themes present issues or specific situations to study in each case. A complete findings sections of a case study involves both a description of the case and themes or issues that are uncovered in studying the case. These case themes can be organized by chronology, analyze across cases for similarities and differences among the cases, or presented as a theoretical model.
That's great to know. Thank you, Glenn. Okay, these are all for now. Thank you for joining me in this vlog. I hope we were able to answer all your questions, and I hope to see you soon. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.
Hello, Psycase Incorporated. Albert speaking. How can I help you today?
Yes, hello. I was wondering if you could answer a question for me.
Certainly, I would be happy to assist you.
I need to conduct a case study from my midterm project. So can you introduce me to the types of case study I can use?
Well, in your case, let me introduce to you the 4 types of case studies that will help you.
So what are those?
There are several types of case studies, each differing from each other based on the hypothesis and thesis to be proved. It is also possible for types of case studies to overlap each other. Each of the following types of case studies can be used in any field or discipline. First is illustrative case studies. These are primarily descriptive studies. They typically utilize one or two instances of an event to show what a situation is like. Illustrative case studies serve primarily to make the unfamiliar familiar and to give readers a common language about the topic in question. Second is exploratory case studies. These are condensed case studies performed before implementing a large scale investigation. Their basic function is to help identify questions and select types of measurement prior to the main investigation. The primary pitfall of this type of study is that initial findings may seem convincing enough to be released prematurely as conclusions. And the third is cumulative case studies. These serve to aggregate information from several sites collected at different times. The idea behind these studies is the collection of past studies will allow for greater generalization without an additional cost or time being expended on new, possibly repetitive studies. And lastly, is the critic instance case studies. These examine one or more sites for either the purpose of examining a situation of unique interest with little to no interest in generalizability, or to call into question or challenge a highly generalized or universal assertion. This method is useful for answering cause and effect questions.
Well, I think I already have an idea from my case study.
Okay, so now that you have learned about the different types of case studies, now it is time for you to choose what fits the most among the different types of case studies.
Thank you for your help, Albert.
You're very much welcome, Mr. J. You have a great day and thank you for calling Psychcase Incorporated.
Welcome to Psych Case Podcast, where we psyching psychology. For today's topic, we will talk about procedures for conducting case study. So let's get started. So let me introduce to you our guests for today. They're one of the finest researchers in the field of psychology today. So without further ado, welcome, Psychcares.
Hello.
Hi guys, kamusta?
Hi.
So introduce yourself.
Hello.
Ako muna. Ako pala si Rogin Angelo Lorzano, researcher. Hi Glenn, kamusta?
Again,
Okay.
next, I'm Jeffrey John Manyebog. Obviously, I'm a researcher then. Yan. Hi po.
Hi.
Hello, Glenn. I'm Arian Pidlawan, also a researcher.
Hi.
Hello,
Okay, hi,
ako naman
Glenn.
si...
Okay.
Sige, ikaw muna.
Okay, sige. Let's go, Ali.
Yagi.
Eh, sige, ako pala si Alison Carl Dakipil, researcher din, dito naman sa California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ayun,
For last guest.
ako si Albert Manuel, also a researcher.
Okay. Hi guys. Welcome to our podcast. Thank you for accepting my invitation. Okay, so let's start. Disclaimer lang guys. So for this episode, our reference is from Stakes 1995 and Jeans 2014's approaches to conducting a case study. So the first step, Mr. J, can you tell us what's the first step?
Okay, so the first step in conducting a case study is first, determine if a case study approach is appropriate for studying the research problem. Meaning, a case study is a good approach when the inquirer has clearly and identifiable cases with boundaries and seeks to provide an in-depth understanding of the cases or a comparison of several cases. Yan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. J. So for our next step, Mr. Rogin.
Next step is identify the intent of the study and select the case. In conducting case study research, we recommend that researchers consider the intent and type of the case study, whether single case study, collective case study, multi-site case study, or within-site case study, to have a better understanding on how and what are the target subject.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rogin. Next, Mr. Albert.
Okay guys, this step is very crucial. Developing procedures for conducting the extensive data collection. drawing on multiple data sources, meaning the researcher must have planned on how will they collect some data. According to Yin, he recommends 6 types of information to collect information. First is through documents. Second, to archival records. Third, interview. Next is direct observation. Fifth is participant observation. And lastly, physical artifacts.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Albert. Next, Ms. Arian.
So the next step is specifying the analysis approach on which the case description integrates analysis themes and contextual information. So we have learned that in conducting a case study, there can be a single case or multiple cases. So when it comes to a single case, there can be holistic analysis or embedded analysis. Wherein a holistic analysis, the researchers analyze the entire case, while the embedded analysis, the researchers analyze specific aspects of that case, such as the history of the case, the chronology of the event, or the day-by-day activities of that case. So on the other hand, we can have multiple cases, wherein we can have within the case analysis or the cross-case analysis, wherein within the case analysis, the researchers provide detailed information or description about each case, while to be followed by the cross-case analysis, wherein the researchers already identify the similarities and differences of each case.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Arian. So for our last step, Mr. Ali.
Ayun. So for the last step, reporting the case study and lessons learned by using case assertions in written form. So let's tackle about how the structure of that report is. So una, gagawa tayo ng introduction to familiarize the readers with the central features. Katapos nun, extensive narrative description of the case and its context. Kasunod, the issue description draws from additional data sources and with researchers' own interpretation of the issues. Finally, a closing vignette to provide the readers with a final experience.
Okay, so thank you guys. So that's all 5 steps or procedures that our students or our audience they can copy or a reference. Okay, guys, thank you. Thank you for your knowledge and participation. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Glenn. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you,
Ingat lagi.
viewers.
Bye-bye.
Research in psychology, methodologies. Let's choose wisely. Various methods that are used widely.